welcome everybody to our Rotary meeting today. We especially welcome a lot of guests that we've got here today. We're excited for this meeting. We're excited for all of you to be here with us. It's a special meeting. We have a Meet the Candidates meeting that's happening today for City Council in Spanish Fork. Because we're on kind of a time constraint, we wanted to make sure that each and every candidate got the fair and equal time frame on a couple of questions that have been drummed up and we feel are adequate for citizens in the city to hear from the candidates. And we invited all 6 candidates to come. Unfortunately, 2 of them couldn't be with us today. That's Matt Barber and Jackie Larson are unable to be with us today. But with us today, we have Councilwoman Stacy Beck, Councilman Jesse Carden, Mr. Mike Clayson, and Mr. Landon Took, that are all in the race for City Council this upcoming election season. So we appreciate them being here. And prior to the meeting, we had each of them randomly pick the order that they'll go in. And so as we get into these questions, we'll give each of them a couple of minutes time to answer those questions and then move on to the next question. And we'll go ahead and go 1 through 4. And lucky number 1 was Jesse Carden. Following him, we'll have Landon Took. And then following him, we'll have Mike Clayson. And after Mike, we'll have Stacy Beck in number 4. So we'll go to that point, and I guess I'll ask the first question. Each candidate was given these questions as they came here to the event today. And first question that they're going to address is this: it says, "It's been said that representing the citizens means to simply do what they ask you to do. If you're elected, you'll have decisions where you'll get 5 or so emails asking you to vote one way and 5 or so emails asking you to vote the opposite. What would be your process in making your decisions?" With that, I'll turn the time over to Mr. Carden. Yes, sorry, I should mention for everybody, you already know this, you guys have done it before. We've got a helper here that's gonna, help keep track. She'll let you know when you've got 30 seconds left and then when time's getting short, so.
And then you'll come up here and rip us out.
Yes, and then there's a hook.
That doesn't work.
There's a hook.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you to the Rotary. Thank you for being here, and thank you for what you do as the Rotary. It doesn't go unnoticed. Being a part of the chamber, obviously we partner together every year to do the scholarship golf tournament, which is awesome. But again, thank you for doing this because it's a great part of making sure that we get the word out and different things like that. I feel like I could simply just point to this blue, the 4 truths, 4-way test over here and say this is how we should be making decisions as a city council. At every time, these are really, really powerful truths that should be a part of that. But to get more in depth, one of the things that, as I've been on city council this last year, that has been different than what maybe I thought is almost every issue that seems like it's a major issue does have people that are on both sides of the issue, no matter what it is, that want to be heard and want you to make sure you're hearing them. And that's a vital part of being on the city council, is making sure that people feel heard. But even more importantly, in that, not maybe more importantly, but more diving into it, is there's a way that I go about making decisions on city council, and really in anything that I'm doing, but specifically with city council. First, I need to hear the voice of both sides of the issue. A lot of times in issues that we're dealing with land rights issues. So there's a property owner, there's a future property owner, and then there's the adjacent property owners, and then there's Spanish Fork as a whole, right? All of those voices have a voice at that table and need to in order to make those, whenever we're making those decisions. So weighing those options, hearing them, and then the reason why we're elected, the reason why we are in the positions we are, is to make tough decisions. Sometimes those decisions are going to be really hard, and sometimes it's not going to necessarily seem like it was the right decision at that time, but it's important that we're making decisions that are going to be for the future of Spanish Fork. One specifically that we made in the last couple of decades is that of pressurized irrigation. And time's up, that flew fast.
Well, good afternoon, Rotary Club. It is such a pleasure to be with you all. I will always tell the story, so I'm going to quickly, as part of my answer, start with that, and that is just my deep love and gratitude for this organization. When I was a senior in high school, my family had just moved here a couple years prior, getting ready to graduate. The Rotary Club, Tracy Franson, a couple others at the time, reached out. I was awarded a scholarship. I actually decided to serve an LDS mission before going to college, came home, but my schooling for that first year was covered because of the Rotary, Spanish Fork Rotary Scholarship. And it set me off on an amazing trajectory through college, and I was able to get more scholarships to pay for my schooling. But I will always, always, always remember, never forget, there was Rotary Scholarship, or Rotary Club Scholarship here in Spanish Fork that got me to start and helped me get through and graduate from college. So thank you. I love this organization. As far as answering the question, boy, you know, I view serving on city council as is serving, volunteering. It is listening to the residents and being their voice, and that is how I've always viewed it, and that's why I want to be a part of this amazing city council. And I know I talked to the city council members about the emails, and you do get 5 or more emails for and against and questions about the different issues, the different things that come up. And it's tough because it's easy to just vote maybe the way you think is best or what the popular vote is. You know, I feel like listening and really understanding the issues is so important. And then, yes, I'm a fan of what's best for the greater majority, absolutely. But I want to definitely listen and learn, educate myself. There it is. Inform and educate myself so that I can make the best decisions in your behalf. And it's not easy. It's very tough. Thank you.
Well, I'm Mike Clayson. I'd like to thank the Rotary, Macy's, Spanish Fork 17 for this opportunity. I'm getting more used to it. I don't mind. I talk a lot. If you get to know me, you get me talking hunting or trapping, you're probably going to want to walk away because I won't stop. But this setting, I don't love as much. But I did. John Mendenhall said if I had extra time, he would take it and discuss the irrigation ditch. So we're going to go with that. That's a very good question. That's why we would be on city council, because there's going to be times you're going to have to make a decision when you have some for, some against. I will say listening is the key. Listen to the reasons why somebody's for or against something, because it could be just personal, because it's my backyard or it's not good for the city. So I think you'd have to listen to the reasoning. The other thing I think is the staff. One thing I've learned on being on the planning commission is the staff at Spanish Fork City does an excellent job. By the time we would see it, it would go through the staff plus planning commission, then to city council. So I would say most problems are ironed out by then, and then it would just be a tough decision. And I would hope that I would just make the right decision for the city. And Jesse touched on it. We've had this talk about pressurized irrigation before, where a lot of people thought that was a horrible idea. I shared last time we had this, my wife come home in tears because she worked for the city at that time, and she was getting bombarded daily with phone calls. And you fast forward to now, and that's probably one of the best decisions this city ever made. And there was a lot of people that took a lot of heat for that. So I would ultimately just go with the best decision that I felt for the city. Thanks.
Thanks for inviting us. It's good to be here. I feel like I'm here amongst friends, and that's a good feeling. Thank you for all you do. I think we're preaching to the choir when we're saying we're going to go out and serve the community. We're looking in the eyes of you who already do that and give so much back, so thank you. Serving for the past 8 years on city council, I have been reminded continuously I do not know a lot about a lot of things. People email us, issues are brought up, and I don't know the answers. So I really appreciate it when residents reach out and explain their perspective on something. Otherwise, I'm not going to know. I'm going to see a staff report and be like, hey, this is the way it should go. But once residents start reaching out, or professionals in this industry and helping us see a different way to look at things, that's always helpful. But also, I trust our staff. We are so blessed in Spanish Fork to work with the best staff. And this is their profession. This is their major. I can call them. I can meet with them. If there's something that I don't understand, I turn to them. And they are so gracious in giving me their time. I've also been known to call professionals in our community that are are knowledgeable. For example, our architecture codes were changing a couple years ago, and I called a couple different builders to see, hey, does this make sense? I'm not understanding this. I'm not a builder. Is this the right route we should go? So I think just being able to reach out to others, have relationships that you can feel comfortable confiding in someone, reaching out to them, asking them best practices is always a great option to go. So I just want to continue to encourage residents, reach out to us, please. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your perspective because we do not have all the answers. Thanks.
Awesome. Great answers to a question that when I thought that it was neat to write up, was like, I don't know how I would answer that. So that's pretty good. That's awesome. And I failed, even though it's in front of me, the good mayor reminded me, you forgot to have them do an introduction of themselves. And it's right here. I can show you after. So, so we'll go ahead with the second question. And then after that, we'll go ahead and give you another couple of minutes each to anything that you want to share at the end, intro of yourself, whatever you want to do, anything at the end that you feel you'd like to say. So, the second question goes as follows, and I think we'll reverse it and maybe have Councilwoman Beck go first. Go 4, 3, 2, 1. Is that okay?
Yeah, remind me what the question is.
I'll read it right now. All right. So question number 2 is, when was the last time, after learning more about something, that you changed your mind about it, and what was
it? I wish we would have got these questions like days ago. A couple things came to mind. This summer, when it goes back to the previous question, is sometimes you get 5 emails for something and 5 emails against something. In the same day, and this is no joke, I'm not making this up, we received an email, we as in the mayor and the council, of a resident really disappointed in our decision as the council to take away the shepherd's hooks at the cemetery years ago. And he thought our cemetery really looked crappy. He was disappointed in our decision, kind of tore us apart. And I was reading that and I thought, oh, this is sad, because I remember going to the cemetery with the current mayor and council staff, walking around saying, we know people aren't going to be happy about this, but because of an injury, would it be wise for us to not allow the shepherd's hooks? And we thought, we're going to have to implement this slowly. It wasn't like, yeah, let's just get rid of them. We were methodical about our decision-making process. So I was sad that that person couldn't see that. Within hours, I received a text from a resident taking a picture of her son's headstone, which I don't think any parent should ever have to take a picture of their child's headstone, thanking me and asking me to extend her appreciation to the cemetery staff of the beautiful cemetery, that it's always so well kept, so well taken care of, and just went on. And I thought, this is just such an example that we can see things so differently no matter the circumstances. So I don't know if that even answers the question. Really quick, if I have time, when it comes to the rec center, I was for the rec center. I did not love the location that we now agreed on. I was kind of pushing back and fighting back with staff, like, no, what about this place down by the Benjamin exit? What about over here on the east end of town? I was pushing back hard, and it wasn't until we did some ride-alongs and I found out this land's not for sale, this land's not big enough, this land doesn't make sense for traffic, that it came full circle. And I thought they helped me understand that the location we chose for the rec center really is the best spot, and I didn't have to fight them anymore.
So, paraphrase the question, basically was I wrong, and I figured it out. I've never been wrong. So just ask my wife, right? No, I think back to one of the things I learned when I was put on the planning commission. I was naive, much like I am now, and I'm going to change the world. And when I see something, I'm going to go knock doors, and I'm going to figure out what's going on. And there was a project in particular that I thought, man, would I want that by my house in this situation? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't. So I went out door to door, knocked on some doors, asked some people, knew some people in the area. They knew what was going on. They knew it was coming in, and they were all good with it. And I'm thinking, I guess I don't know everything. And I think that just goes back to the same thing. It's you've got to have an open mind. And a lot of people say, what's your stance on this, on this? It really doesn't matter what my stance is. I want to be the voice of the people. And we know that can be a lot of fun because there is a lot of voices. But if I was on the city council, I would try and listen to every side of the story, get the staff's input, and then make the right decision.
Right, I love this question. So serving on the city, our city's Parks and Recreation Committee, I'm learning all these new amazing projects about all these things that are happening and I didn't know about that are coming down the pipeline that we're going to be seeing in the next couple of years. And a lot of them I'm not quite sure about. Okay, is this good? Is it? So I'm becoming, more informed and educated about these things that are going to make our city different and better. And so that's kind of where my mind goes first to this question is, okay, this is a great practice ground to figure out, okay, is this something that I support or don't? I also think in regards to answering this question, I think about a couple weeks ago in City Council, it was presented that a company wants to come in a couple weeks and put in kind of a recreational area over at the golf course where kids can learn how to ski and snowboard, and it will be in the driving range. And after and I was kind of not sure about it, after a lot of friends reached out, hey, what is this? And will there be space for still recreation without being a part of that organization? Anyway, so I looked into it, did some homework, reached out, asked questions, learned, wow, this is actually a neat opportunity. It's new. Who knows if it'll work or not? But I think this is, let's try it out. And then I learned about how much, financially our city could gain from having this organization here. That's exciting to our budget. And just overall, I think it's going to be a neat experiment this Christmas time. And I think you'll all see it, so drive by. Lastly, my mind goes to my service on the task force for the rec center. And at first going into that experience, I wasn't fully sold on, oh yes, rec center for sure. I thought, okay, this is probably a good idea. But I learned as I dug in, did the homework, that this is amazing. We need this. Looking at other rec centers and then looking at our city's needs. We need a pool. We need a senior center badly. We need these things that will provide our city and to accommodate our growth. And so that definitely, my mind has changed through my experience serving the city. Thank you.
So Landon took one that I was going to talk about, so I'll have to go to my plan B. So earlier this summer, there was a development that was proposed for down on the south part of Main Street, right by the river bottoms, kind of get the gist of where that's at. And there was a housing project that was going to be there. They were going to donate some land for a park. They were going to try and mitigate or move away from the wetlands. So they were putting their housing in kind of a solitary location, which intensified the density of that area. And so during that conversation, it became very clear during the conversation that it wasn't the best use of land for our city at the time. Whether or not that will hold true for the future is yet to be seen. But what happened is, as we got lots of emails. It was one of those situations where we got a few emails, very concerned emails about what we were putting there and the traffic, the different types of housing, et cetera. But as we had the conversations, the one thing that came pretty clear to me during that was that park, though would have been a great asset to the community, how used would it be? How often would our residents be able to really figure out how to get there? Not figure out, but be able to get there because there's a house in front of it, or some big houses, I should say, because they were 4-story complexes. But as we have those conversations, it's easy to get lost in, because developers, when they come to city council, they're going to tell you all the good of their project, everything that is going to make the city better. But it's important that we are weighing those different voices that are also our citizens, because those are important. Those are the most important in those decisions. But we have to make sure that we're weighing those and listening. And I think the other important part of this, and the important part of this question, is that we're allowing our ego and our pride to get out of the way and making sure that we're actually making the best decisions. Because if we're just making the decision because we made it at first and we're sticking to it, then we shouldn't be in that position.
Again, awesome answers to another question that I don't have to answer, and I'm grateful I don't have to. And so, again, we appreciate the candidates being with us today. I would like to give you some time to let's give each of you 3 minutes to talk about anything that you'd like to, introductions of yourselves, anything that way. And I'm going to go ahead and pick at random. And let's start with Mr. Took, if that's okay. After him, we'll go with Mr. Clayson, with Mr. Carden, and then Mrs. Beck, if that's okay. Okay.
Some of you may have heard me say this before, so I apologize. I know some of my friends over here on the council and candidates have, but when I was 14 years old, I lived in Orem, and my mother had recently divorced. I had 2 younger siblings, 5 and 7 years younger than me, and it was a rough time for us, and we were looking for a new start, kind of a second chance at life, and an opportunity presented itself to move to Spanish Fork. My mom had already purchased a house up in Cottonwood. She's a nurse, was a nurse, and I just felt like this would be the greatest place to live, in Spanish Fork. And I lived in Orem. And I remember going to therapy with my mom, trying to work out what's best for us in our life. And anyway, I kind of won, I guess, because we moved to Spanish Fork. But looking for that second chance, Spanish Fork provided that for me. And this was right before I began high school. And so a pivotal time of life, where so many big things are happening, right, in a young person's life. And Spanish Fork took me in and gave me so many opportunities. And I mentioned at the beginning the scholarship and being on the Spanish Fork City Council and just in high school and student government and all the things, it changed my life forever. And so I'm to a point now in life where I just want to give back. I want to serve. I love this city. We're growing, yes. Can we stop it? No. Can we still keep it great? Absolutely. Can we keep the hometown feel? Without question in my mind. This is a city of pride and progress. We can keep it that way. Do we need the right leaders in place to do that? Absolutely, yes. And it's very important we get the right people in place. Again, Spanish Fork has made me successful. I want to keep Spanish Fork successful. My 3 priorities with my campaign are local priorities, local businesses, and a solid financial foundation. And I'm passionate about many other things. On my website, I talk about a lot of those, and I'd love to talk to any of you if you have any questions about why I'm running. But mostly, I am running because I love this city. It's done so much for me, and I'm ready to give it back, and excited to, and I feel like I'm ready. And so I would sure appreciate your support and vote. And thank you again for having us here today. I love this organization, and this is such a fun event. So thank you.
I got bad news for John. If I've got 3 minutes, you're going to have plenty of time. I just want to kind of introduce myself, my family. I'm Mike Clayson. I grew up here in Spanish Fork, just on 3rd South. I actually managed a credit union right on 3rd South. Funny story, when we had the chance to buy that building, it's not a great spot for a credit union, I'm going to be the first to admit, but when my mom was alive, that was 2 doors from my mom's house, so I could go get cookies all day long. That was my major decision for putting the credit union there. But we have 5 kids that are pretty good kids. We have one grandbaby that is great. And I've said this before, I'm getting used to the term grandpa now. It's a lot of fun. I've coached football, basketball, baseball in this city for probably 25 years, hundreds of kids. This city becomes addicting. I tell people, if you get involved, you're going to want more. And I'll never forget, I've told this story before, I'm going to embarrass Stacy. We're getting ready for the bow hunt. I'm also a hunter, a trapper, and it's the weekend before the bow hunt. Stacy comes up to our house with, I think, Gail Davies and a few other ones, and I'm like, what are they doing here? And they asked us to be on the Fiesta Day committee. And I'm going to be honest. I was like, that's for old people, right? We're not that old, right? And she's like, no, it's for anybody. And I said, well, wait a minute. We've got 5 kids. That's not for people that have 5 kids. No, we've talked about that. We're going to help you. We're going to be fine. And I'm like, it's a week before the bow hunt. If I say yes, they're going to leave. So we said yes. And it wasn't for another couple months, because January, you have your first meeting for July. And I'm like, okay, now wait, what did we get ourselves into? But I learned from that, from the 3 years there, and I just fell in love with this city even more. And since then, I've stayed pretty involved. I chairman over the Pyro musical. And each year, with Stacy's help and some of my other friends, we end up raising over $30,000 each year to put that fireworks show on for the city. and it becomes addicting, the love of this city. We're doing things right, or else we wouldn't have the growth problem we have. They've done a fantastic job, some of the things that the city has done, and the vision that they see, I think, is years ahead of other cities, to be honest with you. And I just want to be a part of that. I want to earn people's trust, and thank you.
So it's weird doing the introductions at the end. You know, Tyler made this little fun, right? So I'm Jesse Cardin. I originally am from American Fork. I like to say now that I was from the Lesser Fork, but I've changed my ways. So, you know, I figured it out. My wife and I, we moved here about a decade ago, and we had picked Spanish Fork because we wanted that community feel. We had been down here a few times for different things, the Festival of Lights, Fiesta Days, some different things like that, because she was from Pleasant Grove, I'm from American Fork. Spanish Fork was so far away in that time, but now it's not, you know, Wasatch Front has grown. But we chose here because of that, and we rolled up our sleeves and got to work as soon as we got moved in here. I was fortunate enough to help open the Grifols Plasma Center on Main Street. Some of you may remember it as Safeway, some are Joann's. It just depends on, you know, where you fall in those decades. But that has become a pillar of Main Street, or that north end of Main Street, because it just brings a lot of business. One of the things that's been really empowering while I was a part of that is really the growth that we were able to provide to other businesses in the community and to partner with them. And I think that is one of the things that makes Spanish Fork great, is the partnerships that naturally happen, whether that's in business, whether that's in Fiesta Days like Mike has talked about, whether that's just in when we need to sandbag someone's house because there's a chance that we might have a flood. And that volunteer spirit is why Spanish Fork is great. It's not because of the elected officials. They do a good job of making sure that things are running well, but it's because of people. It's because of the relationships that people have together. The other part of this that I've been fortunate enough to do along my service journey, I guess you could call it, is being a part of the Chamber of Commerce. And being in leadership roles during some of the hardest years. I don't know if they were the hardest, but they were pretty hard for business communities, especially during COVID, trying to make sure that we provided resources, trying to provide ways that our business community could still connect and network, but also while we could still perform some of the community events that our city loves, one of those being the Easter egg hunt. We were told, Lana was in the meeting, we were 2 weeks till the Easter egg hunt was supposed to happen, and we were like, yeah, we're gung-ho, let's go, but there was this thing that was coming across that was called COVID. We didn't know what was gonna happen, and we had to really pivot. We had to change. And so being a part of that was really eye-opening and important because we had to work together. And again, the semblance of that's what this city does. The three things that I want to make sure that you know about me is I'm here to build bridges. I'm here to solve problems, not just to sit idly by, but then most importantly, I think, is to strengthen our community, because that's what's important. Thank you.
So you guys, you cannot go wrong with any of these three. It's been a privilege to campaign with you. So any of those three, but you can only vote for two of them because your first vote's for Stacy. So Stacy, and then Landon, Mike, or Jesse, check, check, check. So no, for me, this has all been about relationships. A lot of people have said, like, why are you campaigning again? And I feel like I've made an impact. I've built relationships. I have a lot of resources I can turn to for help. It's been fun, to be honest with you. I've really enjoyed it. And not that everything in life has to be fun, but I think we want to enjoy what we do. I'm an optimistic person. I'm level-headed. I think I listen to both sides of an opportunity or a decision and try to do what's best for everyone involved. I actually moved to Spanish Fork when I was 11 years old. We were from Salt Lake City and moved to Woodland Hills for a couple years before Spanish Fork. I still remember the day my parents drove down Main Street. It felt like maybe Main Street had just been paved. It was like 1981, and I thought, what in the heck? This city is so backwards. People had mullets. everyone wore cowboy boots and Wranglers at school. I thought, I want out of here. It was a hard 6 months for a little sixth grader. Then I'm 18, 19 years old, get married, and we choose to raise our Spanish Fork in this little town because we loved it so much. And all 4 of our kids graduated from Spanish Fork High School, and now I want them to live here and raise my grandkids here. And we're facing a lot of problems statewide. It's not just a Spanish Fork problem. Traffic is not just a Spanish Fork problem. It's a problem that I think we can address and work together to help solve and decide what are we going to do with these children and grandchildren and people from, quite frankly, around the country that love Spanish Fork. They come here and visit and they love it. They want to be here. So we need to make wise decisions, and we hope that you can all be involved in helping us make wise decisions. I feel like I'm the blessed one to have had the opportunity to serve you and get to know you. It's been an absolute joy, and I hope to continue to have this chance to work with you. Thank you.
Even I'm a little bit messed up because now I feel like we should get into some questions now that you've done your introductions, right? I'm sorry about that. Thank you for your patience with us on that. And thank you again for being here, candidates. Of course, everybody in this room wishes you all well, including the 2 that couldn't be here today. I just in wrapping up and ending the meeting, I myself want to just say how grateful I am for anybody that's willing to throw their hat into the ring of public service. It seems like in a day and age of social media especially, there's a lot of loud voices and a lot of opinions who also don't want to be part of any solution. And then there's a few people who decide to put their hat in the ring for something to help become the solution to things. And that would be my invitation to anybody within the ears of Spanish Fork 17. Be involved as these individuals. That they're not here just because they woke up yesterday thinking, maybe I want to be on city council. They have a portion of their life that's been dedicated to the betterment of our community in many ways, and now are deciding to throw their hat in the ring for something else that is not easy. I've been a witness of that with my own family being involved in it over the years. It's not easy, and so my respect is immense for anybody that's willing to do that, because it's not easy. So thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do. And thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us today and enlighten the Rotary Club and beyond with your wisdom. We appreciate you. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been wrong in the agenda so far today. But I just want to throw out some stuff, dates for people to be aware of, right? It's my understanding that the general election is November 21st. Is that correct? And the general ballots are going to start going out on Halloween, October 31st. Is that correct? So, public, watch for those. Watch for your ballots to come in and vote. Do your civic duty. Be registered. Let your voice be heard through the ballot box, and make another election successful. And so with that, we'd like to thank you guys for coming again. Thank you to the visitors that are here with us, and that'll adjourn our Rotary meeting today. Thanks.